Hey, soldiers, the world is looking at the government of the United States and wondering what is going on as we dither and come closer to the June 1st date that will bring us into a default with our dollar unless we get this debt ceiling deal done. Now, look, all of this debt ceiling talk is smoke and mirrors anyway. The United States, are, national debt, not counting the unfunded liabilities of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, military retirements. We're not even counting that, and we're over $31 trillion. Absolutely unsustainable. No way we're ever paying that back. Okay, and the rest of the world knows that. Now they're seeing us sit over here and question what is a man? What is a woman? And also seeing us dither on this debt ceiling issue. All right, and they're wondering what happened? What happened to the United States? There was a movie with Samuel Jackson called Get Jackie Brown, or Jackie Brown was the name of the movie. And there's a scene between Samuel Jackson and Robert De Niro near the end of the film where Samuel Jackson looks at Robert De Niro and he says, "What happened to you? You were beautiful." And that is the exact same sentiment I have right now with the United States of America, especially when you hear comments like this on the debt ceiling from our commander in chief.
And there's a lot of other, for example, the idea that we're, in terms of taxes, that they refuse to, for example, I was able to balance the budget and pass everything from the global warming bill. Anyway, I was able to cut by $1.7 billion in the first 2 years the deficit that we were accumulating. And because I was able to say to it that the 55 corporations in America that made $400 billion, or $400 billion, that they pay zero in tax, zero.
Now, if anybody out there can interpret what he had to say, let me know. And let me know in the comments, did that inspire you with confidence as to getting this deal done, okay, in a way that is financially responsible? All right. Listen, before we get started and we get heavily into this, a couple of house cleaning issues. Of course, I need you to subscribe. Hit the thumbs up button and let the algorithm know that, you love this content. And that's the way to perpetuate it out to YouTube. Like I said before, subscribe. You enlist in and become a soldier of finance by hitting the subscribe button. Let me know you did so in the comments. I'll salute you. Also, you may have noticed, the join button is now on our page. That's an option. You can become a member of what we're calling the Officers Club. This is our membership category, and I'm telling you right now, we've got things going on in that Officers Club that are going to bring so much value to you in understanding what's going on in this world, how to interpret the movement of assets, how to look at things like the stock market, the real estate market, and develop a deep understanding of how to benefit from those things. Actual practical exercises that are going to take you through and just give you a boatload of value. Look, just go on over and join and take a look at it. I'm telling you, this is like no other membership on YouTube, I guarantee. So I wanted to let you all know that. All right, so we've got the Republican House, and remember, the House of Representatives controls the purse strings, all right? And we've got the executive, who is out there, part of the triumvirate that's setting fiscal policy, and they're at an impasse pretty much. It's fitting that this latest G7 conference was held in, of all places, Hiroshima. All right, very fitting, especially when you take a look at what's happening in the West in general, but in the United States of America in particular, the destruction of our culture. Okay, the nuking of our culture. All right, you're having children learn inappropriate subjects in school despite test scores in reading and math that clearly demonstrate that many of these children, inner city children especially, are not ready for a 21st century economy. All right? The destruction of our economy, the nuking of our economy, the self-inflicted nuking of our economy. It's like we launched a nuke and it fell back on us. Okay? Debt ceiling negotiations crumble. McCarthy and Biden to hold Sunday call as impasse intensifies. Negotiation in Washington, D.C. over the debt ceiling. Those negotiations have taken a big step backward over the weekend as the White House and the House Republicans continue to point fingers at one another. You had Marjorie Taylor Greene and I forget the congressman's name. He's a black guy. They were arguing in the street over, something stupid. I think it had to do with the disgraced congressman that's under indictment now, George Santos. All right, let that process play out. The two of you should be trying to figure out how this debt ceiling can be negotiated so that the United States, George Santos is not going to matter if the United States of America is insolvent, right? And we are insolvent, but if the emperor's status of having no clothes on is revealed to the rest of the world officially. But we've got members of Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Republican, and I'll get that guy's name in a minute because he definitely needs to be exposed, both on the streets, arguing, okay, like children, okay, very, very unfortunate occurrence in the midst of this debt ceiling argument or imbroglio. Okay, Jamal Bowman is the other child's name that was out there arguing in the street like two juveniles. Just, wow. Anyway, Kevin McCarthy, the House Speaker, says it seems as though he being the president, wants default more than he wants a deal. We have got 11 days to go, McCarthy continued, urging Biden and Democrats to be sensible about this. Republicans have been pushing substantial longer-term spending reductions, arguing Congress needs to roll the nation's deficit spending back to 2022 levels. Listen, this is why the Republicans can't be thought of as blameless in this whole thing. You want to roll spending levels back to a time where it was unsustainable, okay, just last year. It's not like you're saying roll spending levels back to, 2000, okay, let alone 1972 or something like that. No, you're saying, yeah, look, we overspent last year, and let's just do the same thing this year. Come on, guys, work with me here, is what the Republicans are saying. They want to restructure the growth of government spending. The White House, on the other hand, wants to achieve policy goals via taxation. That's why I mentioned earlier that, the White House is one part of that structure that decides fiscal policy, taxation. McCarthy said there's some talk of extending the debt ceiling until 2025. Now, I don't know who's talking about that, but if you do that, it's an obvious play to take it off the board during an election year, okay? But he said he's demanding cuts to federal spending in exchange for GOP votes to do so, to push it back to 2025. Biden, he said, is resisting. The president keeps changing positions every time Bernie Sanders has a press conference, according to Kevin McCarthy. McCarthy said Biden is demanding tax increases after earlier agreeing to keep them off the table. He also said Republicans have made compromises but didn't specify what those were. So the president wants tax increases on top of the automatic increases that are scheduled to go into effect in 2025 because of the expiration of the Trump tax cuts. Meanwhile, Biden, speaking at a press conference held after the Group of Seven summit in Hiroshima, said that he would speak with McCarthy shortly, though he added that the Republican plan was unacceptable. All right, so he's doing some hardball negotiation and saying, I'm not going to get into any agreements with you unless I get everything I want. The speaker and I will be talking later on the plane as we head back, said Biden, and our teams are going to continue working. I'm willing to cut spending, and I propose cuts in spending of over $1 trillion, he continued, but I believe we have to also look at the tax revenues, adding that the Republicans proposed to cut $2 trillion in taxes would hurt the economy. Again, these leftists don't understand how the economy works. If you cut taxes by $2 trillion, what you're going to find is that $2 trillion is going to flow elsewhere. It's going to flow out into the economy, thereby creating a larger tax base because it will create opportunity. Some of it will be, because a lot of people like to use this trope, well, the rich people are just going to buy assets with it. Good, because if you're buying assets, then that will create jobs as well. Also, that will lift the prices of assets. And if you own a home or if you own shares of stock in your 401k, then you can ride that rising tide. Now it's time for the other side to move from their extreme positions, because much of what they're already proposed is simply, quite frankly, unacceptable, Biden told reporters, and it's time for Republicans to accept that there is no bipartisan deal to be made solely on their partisan terms. So what we're seeing here, and look, let me say this, I believe that we will come to an agreement before the deadline, okay? But as you can see, as our position in the world, in terms of our political and economic influence waning, as that happens, it is getting harder and harder for these two sides to negotiate with one another on anything, okay, especially these economic issues. This is another indicator of the decline and fall of the United States. Is this going to happen next Tuesday? No. It may take generations to occur, but we are in a downward spiral. I mean, if you can't look at what we're spending and the, precipitous rise of the national debt, if you can't look at that and say, you know what, we got a spending problem, then you are out of your cotton-picking mind. Okay, so we already read that. Biden's comments came after McCarthy on Saturday accused the White House of backtracking during negotiations and told reporters that there would be no progress made until Biden returns from the trip. The White House is moving backwards in negotiations, McCarthy tweeted Saturday afternoon. Unfortunately, the socialist wing of the Democrat Party appears to be in control, especially with President Biden out of the country. He's absolutely right about that. And that kind of statement is interesting. Okay, McCarthy's no dummy. He made that for a reason. And I think that it has shades of like Banana Republic in it, because this is why a lot of those Banana Republic leaders don't leave the country, because they're afraid of, coups taking over, coup plotters taking over. And in a way that may be happening here in America right now, not just with the socialist wing of the Democrat Party, which is growing, but also with a bureaucracy, an unnamed, unaccountable bureaucracy that seems to have more and more control over policy every day. And we can't vote these people out of office. In fact, they stay in office, like Dr. Fauci, for decades, okay? President Biden does think President Biden doesn't think there is a single dollar of savings to be found in the federal government's budget, McCarthy tweeted in the evening. He'd rather be the first president in history to default on the debt than to risk upsetting the radical socialists who are calling the shots for the Democrats right now. Now, look, if we were to default, it would be just catastrophic, okay? The value of paper assets like stocks would tank. The ability to obtain credit would become damn near impossible for the average American. You may see massive layoffs. I mean, it would be a tidal wave of just bad stuff. But these Republicans, some of whom are very dogged about, reducing spending, even looking at saying, look, we want to restrict monies going to the FBI. We want to restrict monies going to the IRS. These organizations continue to grow at massive rates, okay? And again, just going back a few minutes ago, you see that the Leviathan is getting larger and more ravenous with each passing day. Janet Yellen's talking about, trying to demonize restricting monies flowing to the IRS. Look, she knows the deal. She knows that as America's fortunes wane and people overseas start to look at the dollar for what it is, they're going to need to turn more inward and attack the United States citizen with onerous taxation. Okay, that's, again, Biden wants to increase that taxation that's occurring to Americans right now. All right, guys, so continue to seriously consider the assets that you hold and how they will perform in the event that the United States continues the shenanigans that we're becoming more and more famous for. This is just so unfortunate, okay? But it happens. When you're out of options, like we are, all right, this is starting to show and become more and more evident each day. The best case scenario is that we kick this can down the road, okay, which we've been doing, and we're going to continue to spend at these enormously outrageous levels. It's tragic, but it's what's going on. So, guys, listen, I want you to take a look at this video. The FBI, they're watching your money, and they're getting some help from an unexpected source to do so. Check that video out, guys. Pay attention to that join button. Take a look at what we have to offer, and I will talk to you soon.